Welcome to Wandering Turtle. Please forgive my voice. I've had a really bad cold lately. I wanted to go over shading of different objects and some different techniques to do that. I've drawn a circle, a cluster of circles, a cylinder on its side, which is a little distorted, and a cone. Some of these are basic shapes that we use in watercolors. Another one would be a rectangle or a rectangular prism, sort of like a house. So I'm going to start out, I'm just going to use a color called sepia. It's kind of a brownish, it looks like old time photographs. So I'm going to take this circle and wet it. So we're going to do a little wet on wet. And I'm going to, even though I've got lights coming from both sides, I'm going to do this so that the predominant light source is coming in from the right. And I just want to start by laying the color almost semicircle. I'm going to clean out my brush, dry it a little bit because I'm just going to use the water that's on there. You can see it bleed as it goes. And let's straighten up this edge a little bit. It'll drive me nuts if I don't. Okay, so let's take this and we're just gonna grab the color and actually pull it a little bit. And the idea is that if the light source is coming all the way out here, of course the shiny part or bit it's just a matter of pulling it. So it's how much you want to. All right, so I've kind of let it run together a little bit. And I'm going to try and catch that edge. I'm going to make a spot so that it's a little less and the reason shading is good is it gives some dimension to that flat circle. So if I really wanted to do this, it's almost thinking three-dimensionally on this. So you can pull the paint. All right. And then of course, if you've got light coming from this side, you're also going to have just a little bit of shadow coming out here through the bottom. Let me pull this paper up. I need to turn it. And of course, shadow is gonna also run just a little bit darker here at the base. The closer I get to the object. Okay. With a cluster, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just going to be working. I'm going to go from my brush right onto the object. So the paper's dry. I'm just going to use a little bit of water to pull the pigment up. And we'll just darken this side up a little bit. All right. To do subsequent one behind it, if I try and grab a hold of one of these ones that are right next to it, I might get a chance of bleed, and I don't want to bleed off into that. So I'm going to take this. This is going to be dark in here. And then lighten out towards the that might need a second one. So let's go to another one here. Turn it a little bit. Light's still coming from this direction like this. So there's going to be some shadow because this is supposed to be going underneath the one behind it. But once again, we want to emphasize the point of light. Let that bleed out on its own. We'll go to the next one. We'll let that one bleed out a little bit too. All right. And we'll go to the last one. And I think you get the idea. It is, now this one's probably going to be pretty dark all the way since the light source is coming here. So you just want to get a feel for how much of it is going to stick out into the light. And in this case, All right. So hopefully that gives you an idea. This one can actually go back in, and it's probably pretty close to dry. All right. This one could be a little darker on this side too, because you got a little scope. So let's just touch it with a there. Okay. Excuse me. All right, the cylinder, I'm actually going to switch to a flat brush. This is a number 24. I don't think you'd have to go quite that big. In fact, I think I'm just going to go to, it's a similar, this is actually a sable brush, nice and soft, and we're going to wet the area down. I would say don't be afraid to move your paper. I'm left-handed, so it probably already looks crazy, but I'm never afraid to move my paper around. Even on an easel, I take the time to flip my pad or my block. Okay, so let's imagine that this is a barn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip just a part of the brush into the paint, and then I'm going to, so this side of the brush has got pigment on it, and let's see, oh, I got some green in it. But as you can see, even though the green's in there, that just putting that in there part way. I'm not even, so I can get a little more in there without the green. But because it's wet, it's going to take off on its own anyway. All right, I'm going to pull it back a little bit. And I'm actually pulling the pigment. So you can see I get a graded wash if I wanted to get a better graded wash or a fan. I'm just going to take a little bit of pigment on a round brush. Now I'm going to go back while this is still wet. And There we got some color on there. Now, since it's wet, I can actually tilt it and let the pigment run a little bit. Then go back to a fairly clean brush and just let this pull. So even though you got curves, something can look very flat. And shading helps pull the paint across, give you some dimension to that. These are pretty rough, but I'm hoping that this gives you a good idea of how to do it. So there's actually pigment still in this brush. Didn't get it clean enough. And it might be a little too damp, so I'm just gonna blot it with a paper towel and go back over it again. Once again, the light's gonna come from the right, or excuse me, the left. And we're just gonna run it right down the side of this comb. And this, you can wait between. You don't have to leave it wet. You can also all right. It's imagining how it looks three-dimensional. If you're not spatial oriented, you might find it a little bit harder to do this, but I think that it's achievable by just about anyone. All right, I'm going to go back to the round. This is a nice big fat round. All right. And if the light is still coming down on top of it, again, I'll get it there. I'll get it to where it feels comfortable. You see how I'm dabbing it? If I draw it, if I just pull the brush cut, you see the pigment move. But if it's wet and I can pull it up, or if I feel like that's too much, I can actually pull it back. So when it's wet, it's adjustable. Even when it's dry, you can come back on a lot of pigments and get the color that you want, the richness that you want. Okay. And then on this one, the shadow would probably come out this way. I'm going to leave a little bit of an edge, because you can see when I get close to it, it goes ahead and takes the edge off of it. It softens that edge up. All right, if I were going to do that again, I'd probably a little less water, a little more pigment, just let it go on either side of the line. Okay. Cone would be a little bit harder because you got to think about this side coming out and this side. All right. I hope this has helped. Please subscribe. I appreciate anybody who subscribes. You can leave comments, positive, even negative comments are good, or suggestive comments, questions. I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you very much.